Welcome to Ficefilm. Today's video is all about the science fiction's action movie Spider-Man 2. Warning, this video contains spoilers. Enjoy! The two lives that Peter Parker leads are becoming increasingly difficult to maintain 2 years after the death of the Green Goblin. Peter is constantly juggling the obligations of his everyday life with the responsibilities he has as Spider-Man. As a result, his personal life frequently takes a backseat. After being laid off from his work as a pizza delivery driver in Manhattan, he finds himself in a difficult financial situation and fights to keep up with his physics studies at Columbia University. In addition, he has become estranged from his love interest Mary Jane Watson, who is in a relationship to Peter's dismay, and his best friend Harry Osborn, who falsely accuses Spider-Man of murdering his father. Additionally, Peter's aunt, May Parker, is in danger of losing her home for foreclosure. Peter's new mentor and inspirations, a brilliant scientist named Professor Otto Octavius, has received funding for his studies from Harry. The latter is now the head of the Genetic and Scientific Research Divisions at Oscorp. He introduces a fusion reactor, which is a tritium-powered energy generator. The device uses harmonic reinforcement to create a perpetual sun that could serve as a source of renewable energy. In order to keep himself safe from the hazardous chemicals, Octavius has also developed a set of mechanical robot tentacle-like arms with artificial intelligence named Harry, Larry, Mo, and Flo. These are impervious to heat and magnetism and are telepathically controlled by himself around his waist. It is done to perform a sustained atomic fusion experiment using an extremely sun-hot radioactive machine. One day, Dr. Octavius invites Peter and Harry to a public demonstration to present his fusion power project. A power spike causes the fusion reactor to destabilize, despite the fact that it has overloaded and become unstable. Dr. Octavius refuses to stop the experiment. Consequently, his wife is killed. The neural inhibitor chip that prevented the advanced AI of the arms from influencing Octavius' mind is destroyed, and the components become permanently fused to his spine and damaged brain. Peter manages to stop the experiment successfully as Spider-Man. Unconscious, he is transported to a hospital to have the tentacles removed. However, the tentacle claw, which the surgeons refer to as death flowers, grow minds of their own and the capacity to move at will. They mercilessly kill the surgeons, and Octavius is able to flee the hospital. Uncontrolled, the tentacles begin to corrupt Octavius' mind and take control and ownership of it. This plays on Octavius' vanity and ego, which leads him to the conclusions that he must finish the experiment no matter what the cost. Mr. Jonah J. Jameson, a publisher at the Daily Bugle, has given him the nickname Dr. Octopus, often shortened to Doc Ock. Doc Ock makes an attempt to rob a bank while Peter Parker and his aunt are in the building. He is doing this so that he can get the money to fund his research. Peter is able to recover from a short blip in his powers, unaware that he is experiencing a crisis that is referred to as his mutation disease. And soon after, the two continues their struggle outside of the bank, where Doc Ock has taken Aunt May as a hostage. After being rescued by Spider-Man, she reassesses her previous judgment of him and comes to the conclusions that he is a hero. Octavius escapes alive. Peter finds out that Mary Jane is making arrangements to wed Jonathan Jameson, an astronaut who is the son of Mr. Jonah Jameson. Peter learns this information while attending a party. Shortly after this, Peter suffers from the mutation disease once more and loses his powers while web slinging across town. He is unable to spin webs, his ability to adhere to smooth surfaces fails, and his spider sense is greatly diminished. He also gets into a physical altercations with Harry, who is drunk because Octavius' failed experiment caused Oscorp to go bankrupt. In the meantime, Octavius is working on reassembling his experimental reactor. Peter has doubt about his ability to ever have what he needs a life as Peter Parker, which involves a vision of Uncle Ben. Peter makes the decisions to give up being Spider-Man and throws away his costume. A garbage man found his discarded costume and brought it to sell at the Daily Bugle. This makes J. Jonah Jameson happy because he was given the opportunity to take possession of Spider-Man's costume. When Aunt May returns home after paying her respects at Uncle Ben's cemetery, she is shaken by Peter's admissions that he was partially to blame for his uncle's passing. Peter and Aunt May comes to terms with their differences, and Aunt May informs Peter that Spider-Man gives others hope, in spite of the fact that Peter may have to give up some of his own goals. Peter makes an effort to reconnect with Mary Jane, but she tells him that it is too late for them to be together. In the meantime, Doc Ock has finished constructing his reactor and is in need of one final item. The reactor requires tritium, which is a rare metal that serves as fuel for the reactor. He goes to Harry Osborn for it. and when Harry refuses to give it to him, he threatens to throw Harry from the balcony of the Osborn residence. In exchange for Spider-Man's capture, Harry pledges to provide Ock with what he requires from him. Mary Jane confronts Peter in a coffee shop in an effort to find out if he still loves her, but Peter reveals to her that he has moved on from their relationship. Doc Ock decides to burn the coffee shop after being told by Harry that Peter was the most important piece of information in locating Spider-Man, as he is one mostly taking his photographs. Peter rediscovers his spider sense just in time to save Mary Jane and himself from being hit by a falling cap. But Doc Ock succeeds in kidnapping Mary Jane as part of his plan to trick Spider-Man into falling into his trap. Peter's abilities are restored in their entirety, and he dons his costume, taking it back from an enraged Jameson in the process. He then challenges Doc Ock to a fight which takes place first on top of a bell tower and later on top of a train. Octavius disables the train's brakes while the conflict is in progress, which requires Peter to stop the speeding train to save the passengers. Although it requires a lot of effort on Peter's part, he was able to stop the train just in time to prevent it from swerving over the end of the track and dropping to the bottom of the lake from a great height. He is safe from falling thanks to the passengers on the train who reach him just in time to see him without his mask on. They come to an agreement to conceal his identity and attempt to shield him from Doc Ock, but Doc Ock's mechanical arm proved to be too much for them to handle. Peter, who had become fatigued from his efforts, became lightheaded and passed out, which led to his capture by Dr. Octopus and his subsequent delivery to Harry Osborn. After Harry removes Spider-Man's mask, he is stunned to learn that his lifelong nemesis is also his closest friend. Peter eventually awakens and convinces Harry to tell him where Octavius is hiding so that he can rescue Mary Jane. In the process, he discovers that Octavius is reassembling his machine and is becoming a threat to the world. Peter finds Dr. Octavius in an abandoned warehouse on a waterfront pier where he has restarted his fusion experiment. After battling Doc Ock, he managed to stun the villain with an electric shock. Peter then reveals his true identity to Octavius and pleads with him to stop the machine. Returned to his senses by the shock and determined to end his doomsday experiment before it causes more harm, Octavius uses his mechanical arms to collapse the floor of the building, successfully drowning the device at the cost of his own life. Mary Jane sees Peter without his mask on, but Peter tells her they can never be together as he will always have enemies. In another part of the town, Harry sees reflections of his late father Norman Osborn in a mirror that is hung on the wall. The illusion requires that he kills Peter Parker in order to avenge his father's death. Harry dismisses the offer and hurls a dagger at the mirror, which causes it to shatter and exposes a hidden room that contains the Green Goblin's outfit, other fighting gear, and the serum that gave him his superhuman power. Mary Jane runs away from her wedding at the end of the movie and meets Peter at his apartment, where she announces to him that she has made the decisions to stay with him in spite of the dangers. She is successful in persuading Peter to finally let her in while also allowing him to fulfill the requirements of his vows by permitting him to respond to an unexpected request for assistance. As Spider-Man swings away, she watches with apprehensions in her eyes.